Welcome to a conversation on international affairs. I'm Harry Kreisler of the Institute of International Studies. Our distinguished guest today is Dr. Anson Chan of Hong Kong. A career public servant, she is the Chief Secretary of the Hong Kong government. In that position, she is a principal advisor to the Chief Executive and head of Hong Kong's 190,000 member civil service. Dr. Chan is the first woman and the first person of Chinese ancestry to hold that position. Welcome to Berkeley, Dr. Chan.
Thank you.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever anticipate you would be playing such a historic role in the history of China and Hong Kong?
No. When I joined the Hong Kong Civil Service in 1962, I expected to reach midstream in my career, and certainly it never crossed my mind that I could get to the very top of the civil service. But it's certainly a great honor and a very exciting position to be in and to be part of Hong Kong's history after 1997.
What led you to choose public service as a career?
Actually, by accident. I wanted originally to be a social worker. I had worked in a large public hospital in Hong Kong in the alumnus department at that time. These are medical social workers, and I thought that they were doing an extremely good job of work and very highly valued by the community, and I thought I would like to try my hand at that. So I actually, after I took my BA course, I went on to study social work. But in that 1 year, whilst I was undergoing the studies, I happened on this advertisement in the newspapers for administrative officers for the Hong Kong government. So I thought, well, I'll try my hand at that. And I sat through the examinations, got in, and I haven't looked back since.
And the notion of public service was not new to your family. Is that correct?
True. My uncle is an eminent orthopedic surgeon and indeed worked in the public sector and then subsequently set himself up in private practice. My auntie is also a well-known worker in the rehabilitation field looking after cerebral palsy children, and she was in fact in charge for many years of the John F. Kennedy Center for Cerebral Palsy Children. And I have other members of our family who have worked at one time or another in the what I would loosely describe as the private sector.
And you had a grandfather who was a historic figure in the history of China?
Yes. My grandfather is regarded as a great patriot. He fought against the Japanese during the Japanese invasion of China. And is, of course, very well known, particularly in his own home county, Anhui.
And recently you went back for a ceremony honoring him?
Yes, the government decided to commemorate my grandfather by erecting a monument in his honor, and the entire family was invited back to participate in the ceremony. It was my very first visit to Anhui, my father's native county, and it was an extremely memorable visit. I got to meet many of the provincial people, and it was altogether a very, very good trip.
And your mother was an extraordinary and is an extraordinary individual. Tell us a little about her and the situation she dealt with as you were growing up.
My mother had a very unusual background. In her days, it was very unusual for women to be highly educated, but she had a very enlightening mother who made it her business to ensure that her two daughters received the best of education, including teaching in English, which was very, very rare in her days. My mother is an extremely resourceful woman. She was widowed at a very young age, in her early 30s, with 8 very young children to raise. But nevertheless, she did raise all of us. We like to think that we've all made something of our lives. But at the same time, in addition to looking after us, she's managed to carve out a career for herself as an extremely talented and imaginary artist. And today, she is recognized as probably one of the best contemporary Chinese artists. She's given exhibitions all over the world.
As I hear your story, I harken back to my introduction of you. You're the first woman in the position you hold and the first person of Chinese ancestry. So it's fair to say that your background that you've just described really informs the way that you're approaching the challenges that you have.
Well, I suppose you could describe it that way, yes.
Let's talk about the civil service in a market economy. In your present position, you head 190,000 person civil service, which is recognized as one of the best in the world. How has this civil service contributed to the success of the Hong Kong economy?
The Hong Kong civil service has a very enviable but well-justified reputation as being one of the cleanest and one of the most efficient. This hasn't come about by chance. It's come about because the civil service has managed to remain through all 150 years of Hong Kong's history as a meritocracy, free from political influence. And in that culture, we've managed to help Hong Kong prosper and grow. And it is, in my view, crucial to maintain that culture, that political neutrality and meritocracy after 1997. The civil service plays a very key role in Hong Kong's economy. We have, over the years, worked out a system of financial management that provides for a small, non-obtrusive government. All sectors of the economy are well regulated, but not over-regulated. We have managed to keep corruption at bay for the last 25 years, certainly in the public service and also in the private sector, and we want to ensure that that remains so. In addition, the civil service has a good reputation for maintaining a level playing field. Our rules for participation in government contracts and franchises are very free and open. Everybody knows these rules and they know the basis upon which they can participate. So these are the ingredients that contribute to Hong Kong's prosperity and continuing success. And these are the ingredients that we need to keep if Hong Kong is going to continue to grow and to benefit not only the people of Hong Kong, but also assist China in its modernization program.
And what are the particular challenges for a manager in your role to keep that system that you've just described going?
As head of the civil service, I see myself as responsible for a number of key functions. First of all, clearly to provide for effective leadership, setting a good example for the rest of the civil service. I think it's also crucially important for me as head of the civil service to allow all members of the civil service to realize their full potential, to help them maximize their strengths and to minimize their weaknesses, and to train up people so that they can move into positions of responsibility.
Is morale a particular problem during this phase of Hong Kong's existence?
No. In fact, morale is remarkably good, given the uncertainties that have been posed by the whole transition process, particularly uncertainties insofar as the future of individual officers is concerned. But on that front, I'm glad to say that the Chief Executive Designate, Mr. Tong, has made it quite clear that he hopes to see maximum continuity in the civil service. And I think that that has given my colleagues within the civil service a greater degree of confidence in their future.
I saw a recent speech in which you spoke about the role of media and information in improving the management performance and in contributing directly to economic expansion. Could you talk a little about that?
Certainly, I'd be very happy to. We've seen a major transformation in our economy in the last few decades. Originally, our economy was very much based on the manufacturing industry. But over the years, given the scarcity of resources available in Hong Kong, particularly resources in terms of manpower and in terms of land availability, we have, like maturing economies elsewhere, moved from a manual economy to more and more a service-based economy. And today, services and knowledge-based services account for 83% of our GDP and employ 73% of our total workforce. And in that sort of a scenario, the free flow of information and press freedom and all that goes with it are crucially important to underpin our ability to compete in the worldwide market. And of course, we all know that today the world is a highly competitive market, and Hong Kong needs to compete not only with our neighboring Asian countries, but also with countries around the world. So we want to make sure that after 1997, the press continues to enjoy all the freedoms that is promised under the joint declaration, that there remains a free flow of information.
And do you think that this is an issue that can be negotiated successfully, given the importance of information to the making of the success of the Hong Kong economy?
It's already negotiated because the Joint Declaration and the Basic Law, which will be the constitution for the new Special Administrative Region government after 1997, does provide for protection of press freedom and all the other human freedoms that go with a pluralist society. Of course, a paper promise is one thing. We need actually to make sure that we put in place the necessary building blocks that will ensure that that freedom can actually be practiced on the ground. And from that point of view, we have a Bill of Rights ordinance, we have an independent judiciary, and we hope to have a credible legislature that will underpin the rule of law and protect our human freedoms, of which press freedom is a very important part. It also, in addition to the government efforts, I think it also relies very much on the practitioners of the profession, that is the proprietors, the editors, and the reporters standing up for their own freedoms and defending those freedoms. So I would personally hope very much that after 1997, our reporters and our editors will continue to write the editorials and the stories that need to be written. I think that with any bureaucracy, an accountable bureaucracy, we need the press and we need critics to keep us on our toes. Of course, we all want to see a responsible press, a press that reports objectively. But at the same time, we do wish the press to continue to report and continue to criticize, because it is only in that way that the government can continue to improve and meet the aspirations of an increasingly affluent society.
During this period of transition, it would seem that public education is really key to all of this, in the sense that all of the parties involved need to understand the importance of all the elements that have made Hong Kong such an extraordinary achievement. And this public information seems to really be key, because in a service information-based economy, if you don't have that information, it's just not going to work.
Yes, that's very true. One of the challenges that we have to face after 1997 is to make sure that we continue to turn out the type of workers that the economy demands. And we've invested a great deal in the educational sector. Today, we have 7 universities. We provide for 18% of the relevant age group in tertiary institutions, and the number of university graduates have risen from about 180,000 in 1986 to over 500,000 in 1995. We clearly appreciate that an educated workforce is Hong Kong's best guarantee for continuing prosperity, and we will continue to invest heavily in the educational sector.
In the United States, and I'm not asking you to comment on the United States, the bureaucracy, the civil service, has often become a whipping boy for the politicians as they struggle to shape a vision. Your system seems to have avoided that. Why is that, do you think?
We don't avoid it totally, but I suppose compared with your country, yes, we're relatively fortunate. But we're fortunate only in the sense that we've worked very hard to achieve the standing that we currently have. I think by and large, the community, and I include in that our politicians, still regard the civil service as reasonably efficient. In recent years, we've made it a particular point to be more open and transparent in our policy formulation, in the way that we implement programs. We've also improved our accountability to the community and to the legislature. For example, I think we must be one of the few territories anywhere on this earth that annually publish a progress report giving an account of how we have performed in the past year, acknowledging our successes, but equally acknowledging our failures. So where we have not met our target, we give a clean account of why it is that we have not met these targets, and giving an undertaking that we will catch up. We also publish annually a statement of our commitments and our policy issues for the following year. So there is a system by which our legislature and the community can hold the government accountable. And I believe that also is a very crucially important part of good governance.
In the world we've entered after the end of the Cold War, there is a focus everywhere on transitions. And if we think of Eastern Europe, the emphasis on the movement from socialist governments and economies to capitalist ones. Hong Kong seems to be uniquely placed to deal with this situation in an entirely different and creative way. And I'm curious as to what it means for the civil service, the kind of competent, neutral civil service that you've just described, when one is going through the throes of a transition where you are at a meeting ground of two very different ways of life, and which all the parties have an interest in getting it right. And that must pose a special responsibility for the civil service as they try to maintain their neutrality, yes, and continue to maintain the competence, continue to do it without corruption. Talk a little about that.
I agree. I think that is a challenge. The starting point, of course, is to remember that Chinese leaders have promised Hong Kong a high degree of autonomy under this unique concept of one country, two systems. And the Joint Declaration on the Future of Hong Kong makes it abundantly clear that we in Hong Kong will continue to practice the capitalist system, whereas China will continue to practice the socialist system. And I think it is on this basis that we can move confidently into the future. We've put in place the necessary building blocks that will ensure that the promises in the Joint Declaration and the Basic Law can actually be implemented on the ground, that we can actually be in a position to practice a high degree of autonomy. I think Hong Kong's success relies, amongst other things, on our openness to trade and commerce, our openness to new ideas, to people from all over the world. And it is important to maintain that openness after 1997. Hong Kong is truly a place where East meets West. I think we have been able to absorb Western values, Western culture, combine that with the best of Eastern and Asian values and culture, and I believe that we get the most out of this combination. And so for us to continue to succeed and to continue to play the prominent role that we currently play in the World League, we need to maintain that openness. And I believe that given everything that we've done to provide for the necessary framework, given the commitment of the two sovereign powers to making a success of Hong Kong under the concept of one country, two systems, and given furthermore the commitment of Hong Kong people themselves, we should make a success of Hong Kong after 1997.
And China itself has a real interest in not losing sight of the goals that you've just mentioned. For example, their future efforts to bring Taiwan back are very much dependent on whether this transition in Hong Kong succeeds.
You're quite right in saying that there are massive self-interests on the part of China in seeing Hong Kong succeed. And the self-interest doesn't only lie in terms of economic growth. Clearly, we are now more and more economically integrated with China. Most of our manufacturing processes have moved across the border into China, and in a way that has enabled Hong Kong to continue to grow because we have this vast economic hinterland just across the border. But we are also at the same time providing help to China's own open door policies and modernization program in a whole range of other activities, in financial regulation, setting up stock exchanges, in helping them bring up professional standards, for example, in the accountancy field, in helping them solve the housing problem, and many other such areas. And I think we will continue to provide those sort of services and continue to be a window to China on the rest of the world. Of course, in turn, we also benefit from China's economic growth. And I believe that as China grows economically in its wake, you will see a greater degree of political liberalization, a greater confidence and embracing the democratic principles that we take for granted and value in Hong Kong, and as well as Americans and people all over the world. And we believe that we can grow in tandem with China, and if China prospers, it will be good for Hong Kong, and it will certainly be good for the rest of the world.
And in this continuing process, I would imagine it's very important for all of the interests involved to be aware of all of the issues, so that there really sounds like there needs to be a continuing dialogue with the Western powers, with the business interests within Hong Kong, with all the various groups that are concerned about Hong Kong's future.
Yes. Keeping the channels of communication open is crucially important. We need, first of all, particularly to manage our relationship with our new sovereign power, that is with China. And in that context, we need more contacts at all levels. We're already doing a great deal of those with not only provincial people, but also with business people. We certainly need those who invest in Hong Kong and our trading partners, and particularly America, who is one of our most important trading partners, to continue to take an interest in what's going on in Hong Kong. These days, America, Canada, Japan, and many other countries, they have an increasing stake in Hong Kong, not only in terms of their financial investments, but also increasingly we have sizable American communities, Canadian communities, Australian communities living in Hong Kong. So there's a self-interest in other countries seeing Hong Kong continue to prosper, emphasizing to China that they're looking on to see whether the promises in the joint declaration will be faithfully implemented. And that is important in terms of assisting Hong Kong to exercise a high degree of autonomy. We want countries like America to continue to trade with us, continue to treat us as effective partners in law enforcement actions. For example, we are currently regarded as valued partners in a whole range of activities such as preventing smuggling of narcotics, alien smuggling, etc. So we ask your country and other countries to judge us by our action and less by perceptions that perhaps things will start going wrong after 1997.
So again, we get back to this idea of the flow of information, the flow of information, the engagement of all of the parties to the process, yes, and really elevating the consciousness of all the parties to the common interests in the future of Hong Kong.
Yes, that's very important.
When you were the Secretary for Economic Services, you actually fell into a role of negotiating with the Chinese on the building of the new Hong Kong airport. What insights did you develop from that experience that you might be able to share with us?
I had some involvement in negotiation with China, but largely my responsibility was to move the project forward in terms of bringing together all the parties concerned, setting up the necessary machinery and the coordinating roles of the different government departments, and in general helping pull the whole thing together, because it is a massive project. All told, it's worth $20 billion US, and it's not just the airport that we're talking about, but the whole infrastructure, the network of highways, bridges and roads that are needed to connect the new airport with the urban areas of Hong Kong and Kowloon. In terms of negotiation with China, I think that it's like all negotiations. It takes basically an understanding of each other's position. There's a common objective in seeing the project materialize, in seeing a smooth implementation of the project. Yes, we have had our differences of opinion, particularly on financing, on how quickly one should do it, but we've managed to resolve all those issues. We signed a memorandum of understanding on how we should tackle the airport project, and we are looking forward confidently to opening the new airport in about April of 1998.
In this process, is there any confusion with regard to who one has to deal with on the Chinese side? I know that as we go through the transition, it will not just be the central government you will have to deal with, but also provinces and locales that would like to benefit with a relationship with Hong Kong. How is that being managed?
It's not always easy to define clearly the levels of authority, and as you say, who we should be dealing with. But it's abundantly clear that we need to establish communication and contact with people at all levels within China. You're quite right in saying certainly at the provincial level and at the center, we also need communication. I'm sure that the Chief Executive, Mr. Tong, will be sorting out his line of communication with Chinese leaders. Clearly, we will have more to do with provinces that are closer physically to Hong Kong, particularly with Guangdong, with whom we already have very good contacts, both in the public sector and certainly amongst business people. But increasingly, as there are more investments by Hong Kong entrepreneurs in different parts of China, you will also see building up more levels and more channels of communication. And the more communication there is, the more of a dialogue, I think the smoother will be Hong Kong's transition, and the smoother we will be able to implement the one country, two systems concept. That said, I think it is also very necessary to help explain to Chinese people the provisions in the Basic Law, because I'm sure that this high degree of autonomy that is promised to Hong Kong, the exact provisions are not all that clear to people at the provincial level. So we do need to explain why is it that Hong Kong is different from any other provinces in China, and why is it is important for us to keep that high degree of autonomy. I also know that the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the State Council, who will continue to be responsible for Hong Kong after 1997, realizes that one of their key functions after 1997 would be to explain to their own provinces why Hong Kong is special and distinct and set aside from any other provinces in China.
What would your vision for Hong Kong's future be if you could dream it into existence?
I'd like to see Hong Kong develop into, or perhaps develop is not the word, continue to be a compassionate, open society, as I said, open to ideas, open to people, that we will remain the free economy that we are now, that increasingly we will cater better for the poorer and disadvantaged sectors of our society, particularly in looking after our elderly. like many communities elsewhere, we are seeing an aging population in Hong Kong. There is community support for greater assistance to elderly people, particularly those living on their own, and it is certainly one area that we will increasingly be giving attention. We need also to ensure that we continue to turn out an educated, well-motivated, hard-working workforce, because it is on them that we depend for Hong Kong's continuing prosperity. So in other words, a society that is caring, that takes seriously its responsibilities as an increasingly affluent community, a society that will remain free and open.
One final question. How would you counsel students who envision a life in public service?
My first advice would be to study hard and to learn as much as you can. I think that as you enter the civil service, it's important for you to have a clear idea what it is that you wish to achieve, to have a clear set of values to which you can work to, but above all, to know what it is you want to be. And to remember that you cannot please everybody because you are likely to end up pleasing nobody. So it's extremely important to know your own goals, what it is you want to carve out for yourself in life, and to stick to those goals.
Dr. Chan, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today, and we wish you best luck in the many challenges that you face in the coming years.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for joining us for this conversation on international affairs.